Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Limitless Entrepreneur. Today, joining me is Daryl Wong. Daryl Wong is an entrepreneur by profession. He runs an accounting firm and also he has helped many businesses set up and operate in Singapore successfully, addressing many accounting and compliance requirements that they need to undertake and so on. So, today we talk about how best Singapore's accounting and compliance rules would make or break a business. And Daryl will provide his insights that will be very critical and important for any business that wants to operate successfully in Singapore. Welcome, Daryl. And Daryl, your first question is, what are the most common accounting pitfalls that foreign businesses, for example, would encounter when setting up in Singapore, and how can these be avoided?
Hi, Vidu. Thanks for having me on your podcast. So, the most common accounting pitfall that foreign businesses encounter when setting up in Singapore, number one is definitely have to do with local regulation. So, like what accounting standards are we using, and also things like whether they need to register for GST, what are requirements, and also all the deadlines for annual returns submission uh, and tax filing, most of the time do not they are not aware of these deadlines, and then they get into trouble because of that. So this I think these key things to summarize three things: GST registration and this tax filing, as well as filing of annual returns. Yeah, these are the things they fumble.
Okay, that's great. So, how come that these businesses actually struggle with these compliance rules, etc.? And in such instances, if these businesses struggle, how have you seen them overcome these issues?
Well, sadly, most of the time, if they do face these issues and they don't have any guidance, they will incur some kind of penalty from the authority, from ACRA and from IRAS. So ACRA is the Company Registration Authority, and IRAS is the tax authority here in Singapore. So uh, they will encounter penalties. So they most of the time they will engage a professional like myself to help them out. Unfortunately, when we come in, there isn't much we can do. We can help them get compliant, but unfortunately, they still need to foot the bill for the penalties. So this is, I think, some of these arises from lack of awareness. Yeah. So this can be prevented if they had engaged the professional services like myself, accountants, corporate secretaries earlier on.
That's great. So, more or less, if they engage a professional, what they would do is literally you will put things into order, you'll provide the necessary notifications, ensure that these documents are in place, records are in place, and the required necessary regulatory documents are prepared on time there. So that's
Yes.
what literally one ways you could actually avoid it. So then when it comes to financial mistakes, so as you know, any business have to go through a number of record keeping, then reconciliations and so on of their books. And also it will be very critical if they want to raise financing at some point in the future. Given that
Mm.
context, what are these mistakes that you see these businesses face from a more Singaporean perspective that has really impacted the business, and why
Mm.
do you see this constantly happening over and over again?
I think the issue that they face is not just limited to foreigners setting up companies in Singapore. These issues also affect local entrepreneurs. Firstly, is the mismanagement of cash flow. Normally, business overestimate their liquidity because Singapore high cost environment is very much they have to really consider that things like rental are much higher than what they are used to overseas, and if they fail to to budget the amount for rental and also have a financial moat that they can rely on for a short period, I mean for extended period of low income, then they result in not being defaulting on their rental payments or even loan payments. Of course, the other issue is when companies face mismanagement of cash flow, they go and take more loans. So this is also not very advisable if you don't have a plan to a concrete plan to actually increase your income, right? Taking loan will only uh, just worsen the situation. So most of the time they do not consider that closing down the company is actually also an option. They just want to keep the company afloat, take a loan, and then they will kind of pay for it later on. Yeah, and foreign companies, they also have, if they hire foreigners, Singapore have this thing called withholding tax. So when foreigners, when they end their employment here in Singapore, when they go back to their country, the company is required to withhold part of their salary, their final salary, to pay as tax. So the company in Singapore need to withhold the amount first, and then file with IRAS, pay off the tax, then release the remainder of their salary to the foreign staff. So these are some of the financial mistakes that companies make here in Singapore. Yeah, especially withholding tax. There's no way you will know if you're not in touch with your professional. There's no way you will know that you need to withhold a tax for foreign employees.
That's interesting. So, in that context, like, how can a business actually optimize their financial strategy to make use of the accounting standards in Singapore? I'm not talking here about loopholes, but how best they could actually, carry out or build a strategy that will be more advantageous for their business operations in succeeding in Singapore.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is a good question. So Singapore is very tax friendly to companies. So, for example, we have startup tax exemption. We have the partial tax exemption scheme, which com- companies can take advantage of. For example, startup exemption, you get like up to 75% off uh, your income. Yeah, your profits, your taxable profits for the first 3 years. So in a way, it's good that, and then also the other things like productivity grants, like PSG, like for accounting softwares and automation, you can actually take advantage of, provided you meet the criteria for these grants. There are a few criteria, like some of them require you to have employees, some require a percentage of local shareholders. So different grants have got different criteria. Talking about grant, there's one good place to look for grants information. It's actually the business grant portal. You can go there, you can shop for grants, and see what is suitable and applicable for your companies. So things like that. And on top of that, sometimes the government during the budget, they will announce special tax rebates for last year's tax, for example. So, but actually, there is nothing really much you need to do. All these benefits are already there, and if you do file your tax, you kind of automatically enjoy them already. The only thing is to take advantage of the productivity grants. You need to go business grant portal, shop for your grants, talk to a grant consultants. There are free consultants with SME Center and the various associations like the SMF, Singapore Manufacturing Federation, SBS, Singapore Business Federation. They have uh, grant consultants that are actually free. They are actually kind of paid by the government to do this for you. They don't charge a fee, and then they hold your hand and through the entire process from start to end. So it's actually very important to know these people. This is their job to help you. So you need to reach out to this grants consultant to help you with the applying for grants.
Yeah, that's great. So then moving on to the next question. So as a business, you always have to be compliant with the required legal compliance in a particular country, and there will be many financial consequences of not being compliant, as you mentioned, certain fines of not filing on time and so on. So as a say a new business, or let's look at it from a more early stage startup to a young SME making their way
Mm.
in Singapore. How can they be on the right side of the coin in terms of the law, in terms of being compliant with a Singaporean regulation?
So this goes back to the first point about penalties for late filing. So mainly these are the main thing. Like ACRA, there is fines up to $600 per financial year, and then there is ACRA striking off of the company for non-compliance, repeated non-compliance, and then also the directors may face personal liability from the authorities. So this will result in penalties, if and also result in loss of good standing with the government. So directors may find it difficult to set up companies in the future, depending on the penalties, depending on the non-compliance. So how to stay on the right side of the law? Actually, the solution is quite easy. Is to engage a professional to do it for you. So filing, all these are quite straightforward. If you are a foreigner, it's very hard for you to go and learn how to file on your own. Although it is still possible to do on your own, but it's best to have, because there's a lot of work involved in before the filing. Basically, you need to do your accounts properly. You need to prepare the financial statements. You need to do the tax computations. Kind of only the professionals can do it properly for you. I've seen people doing it for themselves, tax computation, and then sometimes they kind of also lose out on the benefits, the tax benefits, because they do their tax computation, they anyhow do, they didn't apply the uh, the the tax rebates, this kind of thing. You end up paying more tax because they didn't get professional to do it. Yeah. So that summarizes on how business can ensure they can stay on the right side of the law.
So you mentioned the importance of a professional, but Singapore, for in certain people's viewpoint, may be a more simplistic tax structure and something that is quite true. It's quite comprehensive, but it could be easily grasped and so on. And one of the other beauties of Singapore is that there's many technology and automation platforms that are coming that captures these compliances and so on. Say you're a startup, say you're an SME, how can such businesses use automation or technology software if there's anything out there that could be used? How literally streamline all these regulatory accounting standards and even automate most of their financial processes so that will save time, costs, and also improve efficiency. How can a business go through that process?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there are tools out there. For example, Automate, Zero. These are good tools to that already have built some kind of built-in compliance. For example, like GST filing, they have seamless filing. If the accounts are done up properly, you can actually do a one-click filing for GST filing. And also Automate can automate the generation of the financial statements for your filing, and also for the annual income tax filing, the corporate income tax filing, you can also do the seamless tax filing with Automate. So there are solutions like this. I mean, so far Automate is the most comprehensive in terms of this solution compared to the other solutions. Basically, if you have financial statements and you have automated tax filing, that pretty much takes care of all the basic compliance already, plus GST filing. Yeah, but I mean, having the tools is one thing. Is it's still advisable to engage professionals despite having these tools. So like how to do the bookkeeping properly in the first place actually will help you with the automation later on, because it's as with all systems, rubbish in, rubbish out. So if you get a professional to do the bookkeeping properly, then you can actually save costs on the later on the filing side. So
That's
this
great.
is how.
So thank you, Daryl. That's great. So thank you, Daryl, for joining us today. So, ladies and gentlemen, we spoke about the Singapore accounting and compliance rule, how it can make or break a business, and Daryl provided us a more insider perspective of the challenges that are faced. And what he emphasized was the importance of hiring a professional to do all your accounting compliances as well as filings to make your life much easier and not to try it yourself. He emphasized the presence of automation software like Automate and how best you could streamline it, but stressed why again you should use a professional to navigate these challenges. Singapore, the tax structures are quite straightforward. However, there are severe penalties for non-compliance and so on. So these were the key points that were brought out in this discussion, and I hope it will be very insightful and helpful for you when operating your business here in Singapore. So thank you very much, Daryl, for joining us again. And we look
Thank you,
forward
Vijay.
for Thank you, Daryl. So we look forward to presenting another exciting episode of Limitless Entrepreneur next time as well. So have a great day.